I am ready.
All right, let's go, everybody.
Bizarre Inquiries with Shayn Orin.
What is up, everybody? I am the one that like one guy called Shane Squatch, and alongside me over here, I have what is your name over there, good sir?
The big bad Boo Daddy, Orin Felix.
Daddy, chill.
And guys, we have a lot of shenanigans for you tonight on this live installment of Bizarre Inquiries. We got a couple different things we're going to dive into with you tonight, and unfortunately, I didn't really find a funny one on here for tonight, but I do have some clips to make up for some of the comedy with that, and I also do have a somewhat mind-bending one to get into towards the end. But before we get into this fascinating show that we have for you guys today, we, of course, have to do some updates. So, Orin, what's been going on with you since last week?
Just living the damn dream, man. What about you?
Oh, I'm pretty excited about the fact that, sitting in a chair for a long time, doing podcasts, doing editing, all that kind of stuff. When you start getting older, your back starts hurting, your ass starts to hurt. So, I was getting to a point where I had like an ass mat.
What are you doing that your ass is hurting?
Nothing that nobody has already seen on the OnlyFans. So
okay.
Anything that, is getting done in that sense, there's already a means of making money off it. So it's okay. But, sitting here for a long time, I started to flatten out
your sore ass story.
This ass cushion after 3 years. We're to the point where it was just a flat piece of foam. So I recently decided to spend a little bit of money on one of those, those silicone, like waffle comb, honeycomb looking seat things that are supposed to help with your back and everything. And I am not disappointed whatsoever. I'm very happy. My ass is very, very comfortable.
Well, thank you for the ass update. And switching gears just slightly, our next YouTube live episode of Bizarre Inquiries will be on Thursday, May 1st at 7:15 Eastern on the Open Minds Media YouTube channel. So you guys, make sure you submit questions, articles, videos, anything you want us to inquire about. And also make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe and do all those fancy internet things. And click the bell icon so you guys can be notified when Bizarre Inquiries, Bizarre Encounters, and Inquiries of our reality, go live.
Very, very exciting. So we've been having some very, very good luck as far as going live on this. And actually, just to give a quick shout out while we're taking a moment to do it, Kelly is actually in the chat. And that I didn't know which Kelly it was because on this chat I can only see the first name. But that is the exact Kelly that gave me the nickname Shane Squatch. So there you go. I have the Kelly. So now there's actually two people that call me Shane Squatch. I got Blood Sugar and I got Kelly. So boom, there you go. Side note, how you been, Kelly? It's been a hot minute, and I appreciate you for popping into the show today. But before we get into what we're going to get into today, I think we have one last question for the big bad Boo Daddy over there.
Daddy, chill.
Who is your daddy, and what does he do?
What do you do, Orin? What do you do?
Oh, it depends on what context we're talking about.
Answer the question.
You're just going fucking hog wild with the sound effects tonight, aren't you?
And I'm coming.
Heyo.
Look out for Alex Jones, man. He's very intense about it, man.
He has quite the bedside manner, doesn't he?
Oh,
Mrs.
yeah.
Jones is a lucky woman.
Right after he's about to bust, it's just...
And I'm coming.
Is that what you say? I mean, does it run in the Jones
when
family?
I get into the Alex Jones aura, that's just the only way you got to go. It's either boom, here goes the dynamite, or you just got to scream that you're coming. You got to let him know. That's the only way to go about it, man. And then after that, you usually hear a response like,
Daddy, chill.
The Alex Jones voice makes an appearance in the bedroom there in the Shane Jones house. So
I will swear by it that it will happen.
Okay.
But on a little bit more of a serious note, diving into what we're going to dive into a little bit today. So recently on our Operation High Jump episode, do you remember some of the stuff that we dived into on that as far as the conspiracies on where the Nazis may have gone?
I do. That was probably my favorite part of that episode and doing the research for that one.
So there may be some confirmation of this. And I don't know what has fully been released yet, but this isn't just something on some random conspiracy theory website. This is actually coming from Fox News, and there is a video on it.
I thought you said it wasn't from some random conspiracy theory website.
Disproving it, because typically they'll do the thing where they try to, make you feel like you're crazy with it. But this one coming from Fox has a clip, and it also has an article to go with it. I think probably the best spot to start for this one might be with the clip. So I'll bring that clip up so everybody can see it. And depending on which way you want to do it, Orin, I know that there is a lot of reading on this one. So do you want to do your fun voices for this one, or do you want me to do them?
I mean, I can do the reading if you want me to, however you want to handle it.
All right, man, I'll let you do the reading because I think it'll be fun with your voice doing it. So.
Okay. Did Hitler survive and escape to South America? A newly declassified CIA document reveals the agency investigated the possibility as late as 1955. The document highlights a former SS soldier who told spies he had regularly met with Hitler in Colombia. Oh, sorry, I missed this part. Oh, the document says the CIA source indicated he had taken a picture with Hitler, but did not show the photograph. A second page shows a picture of the informant, Philip Chattergeist, with someone he claims is Hitler in the mid-1960s. The official history is that Hitler committed suicide by taking a cyanide... I missed the last sentence of that. His body was later discovered by Soviet soldiers. A German court declared Hitler dead, but not until 1956. The rumors have circulated for years that Hitler survived and fled to South America, even inspiring the hit History Channel series, Hunting Hitler.
I like the intense music. It really gets you into it. Good old Fox News.
I like when they threw in like the random red letters in like
it makes it more intense. That's
so
the point,
knew,
right?
Like you knew which ones that you needed to emphasize. That was pretty cool of them.
So getting into the article a little bit. Oh God, it's already starting music back up. Where's this coming from? Where is it coming from? Go away,
South
TurboTax.
America.
Goddamn TurboTax. There it goes. All right, bye TurboTax. All right. Argentina is set to declassify all government-held files relating to Nazi refugees who fled and settled in Argentina after World War II, according to reports. The documents were likely included. The documents will likely include Nazi-linked bank accounts and archival records detailing the use of Nazi rat lines, which were monetarily and logistical pathways Nazis used to escape justice and flee Argentina following the war. There it is. Guillermo Alberto Franciscos, Argentina's interior administrator, made the announcement Tuesday. The Buenos Aires Times reported citing D News. Let's see. It is estimated that up to 10,000 Nazis and other fascist war criminals escaped justice for Holocaust aristocrats by fleeing to Argentina and other Latin American countries. Notorious high-level Nazis, including Holocaust mastermind Adolf Eichmann and Angel of Death Joseph Mengele, fled to South American countries, while rumors have swirled for years that former Nazi Party leader Adolf Hitler also ended up there. The pending release comes after Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Iowa, requests their release last month in a letter to Argentinian President Javier Milei. Grassley is investigating Credit Suisse and its historic services of the Nazi-linked accounts and rat lines. In the letter, Grassley wrote that the records would help shine a light on the Nazi planning of the covert escape routes. Grassley chaired a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing focus on stemming the tide of anti-Semitism in the United States. I don't even know what that word is. Anti-Semitism. There it is. That doesn't even look like how it's spelled. That's just whatever. Milei promised officials of the Simon Westrel Center his full cooperation in granting access to the documents. The center is famous for tracking down Nazis and is named after the famed Nazi hunter.
Isn't that the plot of Inglourious Bastards?
Yes, it is, actually. In 2017, the CIA declassified a document revealing that the intelligence agency investigating the possibility that Adolf Hitler was alive in South America as late as 1955, nearly a decade after World War II ended. The 3-page... Oh, it moved on me. Where'd it go? I lost it. There it is.
you go.
The 3-page document, which appeared on the CIA's website, highlighted a former SS soldier who told spies he had regularly met with Hitler in Colombia. The document suggested that Hitler may have worked as a shipping company employee prior to potential fleeing to Argentina. On the second page is the picture of an informant, Philip Citron, with a person he claims is Hitler in the mid-1950s. It is not known if the upcoming declassifications by Argentina will shed any light on the Hitler conspiracy. Mainstream historians say Hitler committed suicide by taking a cyanide capsule and shooting himself in Berlin in 1945. Why would you do both? Why would you take a cyanide capsule and shoot yourself? Isn't that kind of like beating a dead horse?
I mean, that's kind of like a Kurt Cobain situation. Like they tried to make the suicide look like it was a suicide, but kind of went too far with it.
Doesn't it almost kind of feel like it's like almost like one of those trademark type things? Like if something like doesn't make sense, but it involves like suicide, doesn't that almost kind of seem like it might be some type of like mark? Because how many episodes have we dived into where it's like this person committed suicide, but there's some like weird connotation to it, and it almost kind of seems like it might be like, again, like some kind of like flag or like either
Calling card.
Yeah, like a calling card, or on the other side, it's one of those things that it's like, hey, I faked my death. I'm over somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like They leave these like little weird subtle clues. I don't know, maybe a possibility. His body was later discovered by Soviet soldiers and buried in an unmarked spot, supposedly, allegedly, as we usually say. A German court declared Hitler dead, but not until 1956, more than a decade after the war ended. His wife, Eva Braun, also killed herself by swallowing a cyanide capsule, but apparently she didn't shoot herself. I just want to point that out.
What a coward.
Right? Ekman, one of the main architects of the final solution, escaped Europe after World War II and was living in Argentina under an assumed name when Israel agents snatched him off the street in 1960. He was later tried and hung in Israel. Mengele, meanwhile, was arrested by U.S. forces in 1945, but released shortly after. He then spent years on the run and was infamous for carrying on brutal medical experiments. He arrived in Argentina in 1949 and lived there for a decade before fleeing to Paraguay and later to Brazil, where he died in 1979. Nazis fled to several countries in the Americas following the war, including the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And I believe that's called Operation Paperclip, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No.
But they leave that part out because that's too conspiratorial, because it's Fox News. You got to keep that in mind. In 2020, a catch of documents appeared to identify more than 12,000 Nazis who lived in Argentina in the 1930s and who had one or more bank accounts on what is now Credit Suisse Bank. The Simon Westerl Center and the files were found in the storage room at a former Nazi headquarters in Buenos Aires. Fox News, blah, 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 contributed to this report. So, I mean, I kind of let you get your thoughts in on this one. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's validity to this? Do you think this is another thing where they're just kind of staging something? Like, what do you think it is?
No, I think there's absolutely validity to it. And, kind of like we talked about in our Operation High Jump episode, like a lot of this stuff is not conspiracy theory. Like we basically know there were Nazis in South America, in Argentina, and there was all the U-boat sightings in the Southern Hemisphere. This is, documented stuff. This is not conspiracy conjecture. So I guess, the big thing is how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole on this stuff? Were they just hiding out in South America, or does it go, take a hard turn and go the Operation High Jump secret bases under the ice in Antarctica route? But
they got to retire somewhere, right? They got to do the operations. They do all that stuff in Antarctica. They send the younger ones there. Then once they get a little bit older, it's like a Nazi retirement home. They just have a place where old Hitler can hang out near the beachside pool. He can play shuffleboard. He can do whatever he's got to do. And it's just a Nazi retirement home where, they'll play like propaganda films and let him yell at the screen for a while, bring back the old times, like it'll all be good.
Well, that sounds just adorable.
train the next generation, and then they'll go off to Antarctica and they'll do whatever weird experiments they're doing on their base, or they'll go up and abduct people, like I'd mentioned with all of this weird UFO phenomenon. One of the two. They either get sent north or they get sent south. But either way, I mean, all the weird UFOs could be coming from Antarctica, or at least the human ones, because they may be potentially Nazi experiments. Continued.
Something that I thought was kind of interesting in the article is where it's talking about basically like all the banking ties with the Nazis, and like this is kind of how a lot of this stuff was discovered. And also, I think it said somewhere in there that this guy claimed that Hitler was like working undercover for a shipping company or something like that.
It'd be a good way to move yourself, though.
Well, what it reminded me of is, do you remember when we were doing our Skull and Bones episode, and we were talking about how basically the large extended family of the Bushes, like Herbert Walker and, all the ins and outs of that, and like the European banking connections they have and whatnot, directly funded the Nazi party. And they were also involved in shipping. So it's just some weird connections between, a lot of stuff we've talked about on the show without even the Operation High Jump aspect of it. Just the whole, secret societies and funding the Nazi party. And, the fact that they specifically pointed to shipping and banking, which are the two industries that we specifically talked about in that episode. I thought that was kind of a weird connection.
Do you think that Hitler kept the stash and tried to like hide himself in the shipping place, or do you think he like straight up cut the stash off and tried to like hide himself and pretend like he was just an average person and he's just, no, mind me, I'm just a shipping person, and then as soon as somebody messes some shit up, he's just like 999, no, let's go here.
He probably like did one of two things. He just like shaved the mustache off and thought nobody would notice him, or he like kept it and just put a funny hat on and thought.
I really hope that he just emo flipped it, because he had that, that slicked back hair. You just got to flip it all forward into the face and just emo slick that shit. He was the OG of the emo look.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's just a matter of time before hipsters bring the stash back, right?
I really don't think that's going to catch on.
I mean, where did the stash come from in the first place? That's like the real question.
From his face.
Was that like a fashion sense of the time? Because I've never seen anybody else who decided to rock this thick ass little mini stash.
Now,
other than that,
like Michael Jordan have like a almost Hitler stash in like some Hanes commercial several years back?
I mean, I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, I definitely remember that being a thing. I want to Google it. Let's see. Michael.
If you can find the clip, you'll have to bring it up, because you should be able to screen share and we can play this one.
Jordan.
But do you think it's one of those things that he was just like, you know what? I need to set myself apart from other people. I don't want to look like everybody else. I want to be able to stand in front of a crowd and really be able to stand out. But I need to have my own specific look. So he shaves it down. He gets this look, and he's just like, oh yes, this is the look. This is perfect. People do this for generations.
It was going to be his thing. It's like your buddy that goes through his like fedora phase or whatever. It's the same thing.
And he just ruined it for every generation for the future. Like, God damn it, Hitler, you ruined the stash, man. But like, what if people they didn't want to be hot on the sides, They get annoyed of maybe having some food on the corners of their mouth, so they just want to shave that part off. But
so
they don't mind the boogers, so they just leave that part.
It's like the mullet of facial hair.
Exactly. Like, what do you do in that situation now? If you just want to have it clean on the edges for eating, but you don't have to worry about the boogers. You just want something that'll catch it so it doesn't drip in your mouth. Like, there's no other choice besides that, right?
So it doesn't drip in your mouth?
Yeah, so it doesn't drip in your mouth. It's the catcher. I mean, look how thick that fucking thing is.
That's what she said. All right.
Who is your daddy?
Daddy, chill.
My page is being unresponsive. It says I cannot confirm nor deny the Michael Jordan Hitler stash, but I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
I'm going to hope it's a thing. Maybe we can bring that up as the comedy clip for the next episode, since, like I said, I didn't happen to get one today for this episode. But hopping over to the chat for 1 second at least, I would just want to bring up this comment from Kelly over here. He said, I'm usually in bed by now, man, but had to make sure Mr. Blood Sugar knew he wasn't the only one that was going with that nickname. He also said he had the stash before he wanted a mustache, but a gas mask wouldn't seal over a normal one. So he was like rocking the full stash, and he was like, God damn it, man, I'm going to get gassed out by my own shit. So he just cut the edges and went a little bit too far and just went with it, man.
Getting high on his own supply?
Getting high on his own supply. Or specifically try not to get high on his own supply, I guess. Unless it's cyanide. Or meth. You got to remember the meth.
And gunshots.
So I think we've beaten this one like a dead horse already, like I previously mentioned. So I guess we will be moving it on over to the next article. So, Oren, do you want to introduce this one a little bit before I bring up the article, or do you want me to just hop right in?
You can go ahead and hop right in. So this is something you listeners and viewers now have probably seen kind of beating around here the past week or so. It's been kind of the big scuttle in the paranormal community, it seems like. But anyway, we're going to talk about a little bit about this new like pyramid discovery. And this is an article from thedailymail.com. And it is okay. And it is dated on March
Alex Jones
30th.
is very excited about these pyramids, man. Anytime a conspiracy comes into fruition, man, Alex Jones gets very excited.
Well, Alex
he's just,
better.
you hear him in the background, man. He's so excited, man. He's just busting at the seams.
He better brace himself because this one's
Answer
going to
the
get
question.
weird. All right, so
Answer the question.
the name of this article is "Where or Were the Pyramids Built by Aliens Inside the Bizarre Conspiracy Theory Backed by Elon Musk After Experts Make Astonishing Discovery." All right, so this is a kind of lengthy article, so I might skim through parts of it, but it begins thusly: "They were not," so the polemic went, "the work of puny man, but instead those giants of Mars. Yes, the pyramids of Giza, those monuments to godlike splendor that have stood for more than 4,000 years, were built by aliens." That was the claim, quote unquote, made by American astronomer Garrett P. Service in his 1898 book, Edison's Conquest of Mars. Perceptive readers will have noted that Service's work, an unauthorized rewrite of H.G. Wells' 1897 alien invasion novel, The War of the Worlds, was fictional. But it did popularize a theory that even in more recent years has continued to find traction. In 2020,
I just want to point this out real quick while we have War of the Worlds. The whole concept of how the heat rays work in that. Like, have you seen anything else that has gotten that close in sci-fi to like how something like that would theoretically work? Because it talks about like the beams and not being able to see them, but it like melts everything. And every other sci-fi thing that talks about these heat rays, it's like a literal like beam. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness to War of the Worlds, man. Like, we could probably dive into that as like a regular episode on Bizarre Encounters, man.
I
Like,
have never read War of the Worlds, and I don't think I've seen any of the movies, so I cannot really comment or confirm or deny any of that.
man, you need to read the book at least. I even got my daughter reading that. I found like a children's version of it the other day at the bookstore, and she's been all over that shit, man. She's gonna know the World of the Worlds before you, man.
Well, we'll have to get her to come on and tell us all about it.
Well, you need to learn all about it, man. Come on now.
All right, so in 2020, billionaire Tesla boss Elon Musk drew the scorn of experts when he took to Twitter, the social network that he bought in 2022 for $44 billion, to write, quote, "Aliens built the pyramids, OVS," like obviously. Now the discovery this month that a, quote, underground city lies in a, quote, hidden world beneath Egypt's most famous pyramids has gained focused attention on the structures that have obsessed experts and amateurs alike for millennia. Just what could the vast network, which descends more than a mile into the sands, have been used for? Musk's comment 5 years ago prompted Egypt's internal hang on a second. My page froze.
It's doing that thing where it's shifting because all the articles popping up. God damn you,
Okay.
Daily Mail. I just want to use your articles for the show and you ruin it with all your fucking ads.
All right, I think I'm back. Musk's comment 5 years ago prompted Egypt's internal cooperation. The tombs of the pyramid builders would be proof that aliens did not construct them. Some name I'm not going to try to pronounce said, "I follow your work with a lot of admiration. I invite you and SpaceX to explore the writings about how the pyramids were built and also to check out the tombs of the pyramid builders. Mr. Musk, we are waiting for you." Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass also waded into the bizarre row, saying in a video that Mr. Musk's argument was a complete hallucination. The largest of the three pyramids at Giza, the Great Pyramid, was built more than 4,500 years ago in around 2,560 BC for King Khufu. who was the second pharaoh of ancient Egypt's fourth dynasty. Until the completion of the Lincoln Cathedral in the 14th century, it was the tallest building in the world. The pyramid, which was topped with gold, built as a tomb. I'm trying to get to the more interesting parts.
I just want to make a quick comment on
Yeah,
this thing talking about the dating of the pyramid. I mean, honestly, like for anybody that hasn't really dived into that, it is a complete estimate because they don't know if it's been repurposed. They kind of guess off of like who was kind of using it and everything. But the best carbon dating they've been able to do on the pyramid, from what I've read, is like little fragments of like wood and stuff like that that's been stuck between like the bricks because they assumed that it was being used as a tool. But even on the other side of that, carbon dating that, I mean, it could have been something that was used for repairs. It could have been something that was like, you know, there's just so much debate as far as like when the pyramids were built exactly. And most of the validity and proof comes from trying to state when somebody was using it, and the carbon dating on it that comes from pieces of wood on it. But in all fairness, like all that can be taken for interpretation. Like nobody truly knows the answer to that question. It's all just a semi-educated guess. Like,
well, and carbon dating's not like super duper to the T accurate to start off with. So, I mean, best case scenario, carbon dating is going to give you like a big, you know, swath of time that it could possibly be.
I mean, even on a flip side of it, to play devil's advocate, I mean, obviously we like to talk about the pyramids being a lot older than they may actually be. Who knows? But as far as or guessing that they're older than what they guess that they are. But on the flip side of it, you know, if somebody's using a piece of wood that maybe was repurposed from something that was, you know, used 50 to 100 years before that or whatever, you know, it could be newer than what the carbon dating is suggesting. Like even on the flip side, like we really don't know. And I mean, my assumption regardless is that I think that this thing, just like a lot of the stuff in South America, it's been repurposed, reused multiple times. So even if you did find little pieces of something like that, my best assumption is that it would have been somebody that was fixing it, repurposing it, and it wasn't actually from the initial builders themselves, especially if they were making this stuff that tightly compacted. Like, I don't assume that there would have been any room for something like that in the first place.
Well, and it's like we see with temples and holy sites all over the world. Like these sites were used by different cultures of different time periods, and a lot of these temple sites, you know, one temple was built on top of the next, was built on top of the next. So, I mean, if you're just in there basically dating all this stuff, I mean, you could basically just be, you know, needle and haystacking at that point, you know?
And I mean, kind of diving down a little bit farther into like this picture.
Yeah, I was going to get to the picture. So this is kind of probably the picture that a lot of people have seen kind of floating around the internet. It's kind of like a schematic, a drawing of the pyramid with these like vertical shafts underneath it. So anyway,
bringing up those though, I mean that at least from this picture, and I mean I'm sure that there's got to be a lot more research done on it, but at least like the cylinders, like my best guess is that it kind of goes more into that like possible power plant type theory, because it almost kind of gives me the vibes of something that's intended to like reverberate energy or frequency or something like that underneath it with these cylinders.
This picture, this drawing, whatever you want to call it, it's not like a photograph, but this drawing attached to the article, it makes it look almost like a power plant type situation.
And I mean, even on top of that, inside of like the pyramid itself, like they say it doesn't look like something that's really intended for people to be able to get through very easy. Like it has like weird angles to the shafts. Like it looks like you're inside of something that wasn't really intended to be something that people are supposed to go inside of. So, I mean, that just kind of adds into that idea. And again, the repurposing of this big thing's here, let's put some bodies in it. And I don't even know was there even any confirmation that any bodies were found in it? Because I always heard that like all the bodies and everything were found off in like the Valley of Pharaohs, and they never actually found bodies inside the pyramids.
I think some of the smaller pyramids they found bodies in, but the Great Pyramid I don't think they ever did. Just for everybody that's out there listening and not watching the live stream or the YouTube video, in this picture that we've got pulled up where it shows these like air shafts, it says there's like some kind of notes attached to it. It says appears to be vertical shafts, 8 vertically aligned cylinder structures, arranged in 2 parallel rows from north to south, descends to a depth of more than 2,100 feet. So all that was kind of discovered supposedly by like new radar experimentation that they were doing. But anyway, 2,000 feet, that's a long way below the desert.
just to add in, because I did just look this up. I looked up about if there was any mummies actually found in the pyramids, and it says, and this is coming from Britannica, which is a somewhat reputable source. Contrary to what one might expect, there are no hieroglyphic texts, treasures, or mummies in any of the pyramids of Giza. Decoration inside pyramids began several centuries after those of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure were constructed. So, no, there was not any bodies, mummies, none of that stuff found inside the pyramids. So it kind of goes
Giza,
into that
right?
like power,
Or
yeah,
is
into
that
the
all of them?
pyramids of Giza. It says pyramids, so I'm assuming it's talking about all three.
Okay, but yeah, I think like some of the smaller pyramids, other places they might have found them. Correct?
Yes, for other ones, yes, but I think that those again were ones where they saw these pyramids and they were trying to reconstruct something for themselves. So again, it's that repurposing concept. But the original use of the pyramids themselves, were never intended to be for, burial of bodies. And I know that it was this weird thing that when a lot of Egyptologists first started going to Egypt and like discovering Egypt in like the early 1900s, late 1800s, they would ask the people around the area like what the pyramids were, and they would say that the pyramids represent us. And I know that we've talked about this before on the show, and I mean, whatever that interpretation of that is up for debate. But I mean, even the people that were around the area when they first started like discovering these things and really starting to dive into them were even saying that like, no, these aren't tombs. They represent us. Like, again, whatever that means.
Well, we're going to kind of get into that a little bit in this next section. It says the notion that the structures were built by or with the help of aliens gained further traction with Swiss author Erich von Daniken's influential 1968 book, Chariot of the Gods. He argued that Giza's Great Pyramid could not have been built without the help of an advanced alien technology. The author wrote, quote, "If we meekly accept the neat package of knowledge that the Egyptologists serve up to us, ancient Egypt appears suddenly and without transition from a fantastic ready-made civilization. Great cities and enormous temples, colossal status, with tremendous impressive power, splendid streets flanked by magnificent sculptures, yada, 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 yada. Genuine miracles in a country that is suddenly capable of such achievements," he added, "an artificial mountain." Okay, so none of that's really that interesting. Okay, so kind of scrolling down in the article, here's like an infrared image that appears to show the shafts underneath the pyramid. It says the discovery this month that an underground city lies in a, quote, hidden world beneath Egypt's most famous pyramids has intrigued experts and amateurs alike. Above, quote, a scan of the structures. Then we got some pictures. Experts have rubbished any notion that beings from another planet might have been involved in the construction of the pyramids. Speaking on the BBC's History Extra podcast, British Egyptologist Professor Joyce Tydesley said it's almost sort of a bit like a form of racism, isn't it? That these people couldn't do it, so someone else must have. I'm just kind of skimming at this point. Let's see. The Great Pyramid was supposedly completed in 24 years. It was built from 2.3 million limestone blocks, with each one weighing between 2.5 tons and 70 tons. British writer Graham Hancock noted, assuming the masons worked 10 hours a day, 365 days a year, they would have needed to place one block every 2 minutes. So let's see here. The latest discovery that cavernous spaces exist beneath the pyramid was made by researchers from the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow and the Italian University of Pisa. So this is kind of getting to the more current discovery that was just found. When we magnify the images, we will reveal that beneath it lies what can only be described as a true underground city, an entire hidden world of many structures. One of the archaeologists said, "It remains a mystery how much older the pyramid the structures are." So Shane, this is kind of getting back to what you were saying. It is also unknown what their purpose is. but they are connected by geometric passages. So again, kind of what you were talking about, the passageways and whatnot. Even more spectacular are 8 vertical columns that descend over 2,000 feet into a pair of huge chambers. The depth is almost 5 times the height of the pyramid. The cylinders are aligned in 2 rows of 4 that run north to south. Given that the edges of the Great Pyramid face exactly north, south, east, and west, the alignment of the cylinders is certain to be significant, and around each pillar is a staircase-like walkway. The discovery of the underground structures further intrigue on a subject that is endlessly fascinating. Scholars all over the world and amateurs who follow every development avidly will be waiting to see what findings emerge. Do you have anything to add, Shane? I feel like I've just been kind of running off at the mouth.
No, I mean it just, again kind of goes back into the whole power plant type concept, and I definitely go into the more like vibration and frequency concept behind this, because I don't think it's like the power plant in the sense that we're thinking it is. Because I mean, getting into some of like the weird theories behind this thing and being able to move these bricks through using some type of like electromagnetic field or some type of magnetic field or something like that. I mean, I feel like it's got to be something that has to do with power in that sense. Like maybe the reason why we haven't fully figured this stuff out is because, you know, we're looking at it in one way. It's kind of like being able to like completely change your perspective on something. Like the answer may be simple, but it may be a matter of you just need to look at it in a completely different way. And like I know that you've been diving into Coral Castle that we're going to be end up diving into on Bizarre Encounters pretty soon. But I know that you probably have a little bit more as far as like the theory on how he was moving like frequency or moving these bricks and everything. I mean, it might play a piece in all this too.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of one of those weird things. I wasn't planning to kind of tie those two things together, but you know, this development kind of popped up here in the past week or so. But anyway, little teaser for a deep dive we're doing. But Coral Castle, it's this like man-made megalithic structure in South Florida. This guy built it himself, supposedly. This tiny guy weighed like 120 pounds, is 5 feet tall. And so like nobody really knows how this guy was able to do it. And he's kind of very coy and mysterious about the whole thing. And he said basically that like he knew the secrets of the pyramids. And this guy was also like really into like magnetism. And he's got some kind of controversial untraditional, if you will, views about like magnetism and how magnets and gravity and all that kind of stuff work, which we'll get into deeper on the episode. But yeah, kind of the same type deal. It's this idea that maybe you can tap into some sort of, I'm not going to say otherworldly force, but some sort of force of nature that would allow you to manipulate and move these heavy blocks. It doesn't necessarily have to be aliens or giants did it, but it could be some sort of hidden occult knowledge that allowed the pyramid builders and this guy, Ed Leedskallen is his name. But anyway, we're going to talk about that a lot more here directly. But yeah, just kind of another one of those odd connections in research that pop up.
I mean, I'm trying to think about how you could potentially do it, because I think it kind of somewhat might play in with my theory on how I believe that a lot of UFOs could potentially be zero gravity, where I was saying that they use the already there magnetic frequencies that are already like being given off by the Earth, and they basically do this like reversal type thing where they're able to basically sit on top of these magnetic frequencies. So I'm kind of curious if it somewhat plays in a role like that, where, you know, not to throw in another whole crazy theory on this thing, but, you know, we're looking at these potential old pyramid builders like they could be like the extraterrestrials, but what if it's a matter of like they were the advanced society and some type of, again, great cataclysm type thing happened, like we always seem to go back to, and what we're looking at as these extraterrestrials that have these zero gravity flying discs aren't actually that, but rather like continued advancement as far as this line of thinking on how to manipulate the electromagnetic frequencies of the planet itself. And, you know, the aliens that we're looking at now are actually like the Egyptians or like whoever these people were that built the pyramids, you know, like getting into that whole weird, like, you know, the aliens, the extraterrestrials are actually us concept, and kind of bringing it full circle with the pyramids concept of it represents us, you know?
Well, and that also kind of ties in, bringing it full circle again to the whole, Operation High Jump, you know, hollow earth type thing, where we talked about, you know, take it with a grain of salt or a whole shaker of salt. But Admiral Byrd's Missing Diary, where it kind of talks about these inner Earth beings that were basically, super advanced and kind of what you're talking about, like time travelers, almost dimension travelers, who possessed this, crazy advanced technology. So, I mean, this just hits on so many things that we've talked about here recently on the show.
And here's a weird thing to think about too. So diving into like the Die Glock, for example, and the Kecksburg UFO, and a lot, even the egg thing that was recently seen, with all of like the hieroglyphics being seen on these things. So clearly, these things play some type of like role in this. And I mean, I don't know if it's something like you make a symbol on it and it functions in this way, or if these symbols maybe possibly like are able to manipulate frequency in some specific type of weird way. But I don't know. I feel like it's an advanced train of thought that maybe we're in the path of getting onto, because just another kind of weird thing to think about. So it seems like Egyptian language, it got to a point where it essentially just turned into symbols, but not in the symbols that we think of it as, but like that we're using like our modern characters, but like into like basically these picture symbols, right? So we think about like past civilizations as being like more primitive, but what if that's not necessarily the case? Again, getting into this advanced civilization concept. So to kind of connect this into what I'm trying to get to today with like modern day society, so they got to a point where they were using, again, like pictures as like their language. Like what is like emojis now? We're almost like getting to a point where we're starting to get to a point where think about how much language can be conveyed now through emojis. But it's one of those things that if you're not a person of this time, or you're not a person of, even if you're a person of 10 years ago, this specific combination of emojis, like you're going to have no idea what this means. But in modern day context on what everybody's doing with texting, this makes complete sense. So like, what if we're thinking of hieroglyphics in this like weird sense that they're exact characters like how we think of for a language, but that's not necessarily the case? What if it's more like a portraying of an idea, essentially like how we're doing with emojis, and it's showing that maybe this is proving that they were an advanced race, because eventually language will get to a point where it'll stop using direct characters, but rather symbols to portray ideas as a whole. Like just a weird kind of mind-bending thing to think about.
So what you're saying is the Egyptians used eggplant emojis?
I mean, maybe. I mean, they definitely had enough phallus on almost every single thing. I mean, they had structures that were phallus related. Like they were everywhere, man. Like on their pictures, like it's modern day graffiti, right? It's like inside of like the men's locker room or inside of a bathroom.
Maybe the Egyptians were just very horny. Did you ever think of that?
I think it's just a weird subconscious thing that the average male cannot create something without first giggling at putting a dick somewhere in it. Because
you said putting a dick somewhere in it.
Daddy, chill.
You've been very vulgar this episode, Shane.
That's what I was going for.
And I'm coming.
So I guess this might be a good leeway, because we were talking about mind-bending concepts, to dive into what I want to dive into today, unless you have anything else that you want to bring up as far as the pyramids and stuff go. But I'm sure we'll dive into that on the Coral Castle episode.
Well, while we're at a little break here, I'm going to grab another beer real quick so you can talk to the listeners for a minute. I cannot wait to hear how you are going to tie ejaculation into this next topic. So...
I can't.
You did it with Nazis. You can do it with this one. All right, ramble on for a second. I'll be right back.
So thank you, Kelly, for popping into the chats. I've been seeing your messages throughout the side. Honestly, man, we haven't talked in a hot minute, man. So I just wanted to take a special minute to give you a quick shout out while, Orin is going to get some allotments. And to anybody that's popping in on the chats, we greatly appreciate you. And hopefully on the next show, we'll have some more people pop into the chats. It'd be really cool to be able to see Bloodchugger and Kelly hanging out in the same room, debating the whole Shane Squatch name. But diving back in, Orin is back with his allotments. And what do you got over there? What are you drinking, sir?
I'm on Bud Light now.
You're on the Bud Lights?
Yeah, I'm pissing off all the Fox News crowd over here.
What's the usual? What's the general for the allotments? Because I never get to see them because they're always inside of a koozie.
I'm a man of refinement and taste. So, when I was in college, we always drank Natty Lights. That was just
Natty Daddies.
Yep, just what we drank.
Daddy, chill.
So, at some point, those kind of got old and switched to Bush. And as I'm getting older, I find that I just don't bounce back from the cheap beer quite like I used to. So now I'm going top shelf with Bud Light. So that's what I'm on now.
I think you have a really off gauge if you consider that top shelf, my friends.
That was the joke.
I would consider that like bottom barrel of the
That
swill,
was
sir.
the joke. But hey, it's better than Bush and Natty. So
Good old Natty Daddy.
Who is your daddy?
I only
and
drink
what does he do?
Natty.
He knocks you the fuck out.
Now.
That's what he does. Talking about knocking you the fuck
you
out.
drink
Those
enough of 'em.
8.5% Natty Daddies. Have you seen those? They're the most disgusting thing I've ever put in my fucking
Those
mouth.
are awful. Yes, that's something you can only drink in college.
Talk about a real moment of.
Daddy, chill.
So, connecting things in with ejaculation. And the best I can do for you guys is this.
And I'm coming.
And that's not hopefully going to relate into the next topic that we're talking about, because this one is one that we kind of have to maybe dance on some of the jokes on this one, because it's a concept that I really wanted to talk about on the show. I didn't know if there was necessarily a place for it on Bizarre Inquiries, but this concept was brought up to me recently from listening to Blurry Creatures. And it kind of hit home in a weird way because, so for anybody that may not be familiar, and I don't know if I've ever actually told this on the show, my parents got divorced when I was really, really young. So my dad ended up getting remarried and everything. And the woman that he got remarried to has 2 kids with cerebral palsy, and they have it to like the absolute worst that they could possibly have it. So, you know, my dad eventually adopted them because their dad ended up taking off. So technically they're like my adopted stepbrother and stepsister, but you know, spending years seeing these two just like function where basically they just kind of roll around the floor like babies. And I've always kind of wondered like what could potentially be, you know, like kind of going on like inside of their head mentally. So bringing up what's kind of diving into on this new thing. Like I said, it was brought up on Blurry Creatures. This whole new, I guess, podcast show, whatever you want to call it. It's called the Telepathy Tapes. I'll play the trailer for it, and then we can kind of get into the mission for what the podcast is exactly. But the concept and the research that they're diving into, again, I find absolutely fascinating. Could potentially answer some questions that I've been kind of curious about my entire life. But let's get into it, man, without further ado.
All right.
My son said to me, I can hear thoughts. And I said, impossible. And he said to me, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie.
Let's please multiply 2 numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9, 0, 0.
Unbelievable.
1.
Maybe shuffle again, Dr. Powell. Oh.
Plus 2.
So he got the plus too.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the 2 the whole time, and I saw his hand going somewhere else.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's gone off the deep end. But
That's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm.
Joining us today to shed some light, Dr. Diane Powell.
I'm working with children who have been reported by a parent to be able to read their mind.
The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation.
I started testing them, and I found that they were exceedingly accurate.
What is the next number?
3.
After the medical board took my license away, I had to prove my sanity. And once I did, I said, I'm going to prove that ESP is real.
Dr. Tarrant, he's done these QEEG scans to see what's going on.
The biggest overall finding is really this increase of activation across all the brain waves. If there was no change, I would definitely be skeptical.
If you can show a consistent pattern, particularly from kid to kid, that's how science changes. You cannot fake this.
We want answers like, where does it comes from? I want to know how and what are we supposed to do?
We can't all be crazy.
We are far more powerful than we can imagine, and the implications are huge for humanity and the planet.
And just to give a little bit more context on this too, before we get into like the mission on what the podcast is about and everything too, the episode that I recently listened to with Blurry Creatures, they're also kind of expanding not just past nonverbal autism, but they're also diving into like cerebral palsy, and was basically talking about this concept that like the consciousness is like still fully intact, like they're still like rationally within their heads, but they can't move their body. They can't move their like lips to be able to function and say these things that they're able to say. So like they're talking about basically trying to even communicate with people who have cerebral palsy on like an astral projection level and on like a telepathic level. And they even got into this thing where they're talking about basically this place called the Hill. And of course, they're looking at it through a little more biblical context because it's blurry creatures and stuff. But they're talking about this place that a lot of these like autistic kids and stuff like that would go to that were nonverbal. And this place was called like the Hill. And they would talk about how they'd see this like Jesus character there and everything. And to me, it kind of sounded like, again, you know, matter of context and everything, like astral projection that, you know, if you're not able to use your senses in one sense, it seems like they would get stronger in another sense. So if you can't use your physical vessel in the main sense that you can, then, you know, your mental would become stronger where you could potentially astral project out of your body completely and not even realize what you're doing because you've learned to almost like disassociate with your body to do what you got to do. But before we get into the statement, I'll let you put your thoughts on it because I feel like I've been going off on this one for a minute.
No, that was actually like one of the thoughts I was going to kind of interject is, you know, we know this thing or that phenomena happens, you know, like if people are blind, their sense of smell or whatever gets stronger. So, I mean, if that's proven, we know that happens. I mean, doesn't it kind of seem within the realm of possibility that, you know, if other senses or abilities are dampened, then, you know, there's something that's going to happen to kind of, you know, counteract or make up for that. So, I mean, I think that, you know, just with what we know, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times, like in ancient times, didn't they think that like people with disabilities and like you know, developmental issues and things of that nature did like possess some sort of like second sight and were more in tune with the spirit world? So maybe this is one of those things, kind of like we were talking about just a few minutes ago with the pyramids. Like modern science, quote unquote, is just catching up to the ancient whatever at this point.
And I mean, even it connects something else kind of weird to think about with it. And ironically, I didn't even mean for these things to connect, but I brought up the whole like Nazi thing in the beginning of it and the continued experiments and everything. If you remember when we dived into the continued experiments episode, one of the main things for anybody that's kind of dived into the World War II stuff that they would dive into is people that had like mental disabilities, people with, you know, learning disabilities, twins, like people that had autism, and they would do different like mind experiments on these people. And like for twins, for example, they would do things where, you know, they would like hurt one twin to see if the other twin felt pain, to see if there was like a mental connection between them. And for like people with like Down syndrome, with like autism, stuff like that, they would do these like different like mental experiment, like mental manipulation experiments and everything on them. So kind of dating back into that, man, like what if, you know, they dived into a lot of the occult stuff. So again, what if they knew that there was something to this, where they saw this trend that all the medicine men, all of the shamans, all these people were prone to, I don't want to say, maybe they may have been, you know, Down syndrome, autism, but they just didn't know what that was at the time. But they were also definitely people that were prone to more of like the spiritual connection and realm to things. So again, what if they knew that that was like the gateway in? Because, you know, during Montauk, for example, they were taking kids and they were trying to, they knew that there was that early connection with them into this other realm. So they were trying to use that to their advantage. But on the flip side, going into the Nazi stuff, what if they knew again that if they were trying to get into mainly the astral projection aspect of things, to be able to see inside of other bases, see what other technology people were hiding, all this type of stuff, that if they took somebody that had this like half and half association with the physical and with the spiritual, and they were definitely into the whole concept of the spiritual and the astral realm and everything, like, again, what if they were pushing them mentally, not because they were like necessarily mass genociding them, but rather because they knew that there could have been something to them mentally that they just had to learn how to harness and possess, you know?
Well, and kind of piggybacking off of that, you know, we know that the paranormal and like, especially like poltergeist, ghost encounters, things of that nature, it seems like younger children experience those sort of things a lot. And so what if, you know, the Nazis, even if these people that fall into these categories don't whatever have some sort of latent abilities, which I think is entirely possible. But what if, you know, they thought, you know, these people might not have these kind of walls built up that quote unquote normal people do against this kind of woo-woo type stuff, these people don't just automatically reject it and say, oh, that's not possible. If you fall into one of these categories, you might be more, in a way, open-minded to the possibility of this kind of woo-woo type stuff being possible.
I mean, even to connect into something else too, with the UFO abduction stuff, isn't there also like a trend with people that have had abduction experiences that are prone to like autism and like Down syndrome? And I mean, of course, with Down syndrome, there's definitely like the extra chromosome concept to it. That if the extraterrestrials are interested in genetics, why wouldn't they be interested in this extra chromosome concept? But even going into like the autism concept, I mean, I've often wondered if it might be the starting stages of like the next advancement as far as like what people potentially are going to turn into. Because
it's like an X-Men type situation.
Yeah, like you look at ADHD, and it's a residual thing left over from the hunter-gatherer aspect of us, that you had ADHD because you always had this quick concept where something's moving, keep an eye on it. So it was like a survival tactic. That's something that's left over from generations and generations. So there's obviously been this weird rise in autism, and I don't know, there's a lot of conspiracies on what could potentially be causing it, but that's not what we're going to get into today. But what if it is like the next step in advancement for what humans are going to be able to do? That it seems like a lot of people that have autism, there may not always be high functioning, but the ones that are high functioning, they seem to be extremely advanced in specific things, or they're geniuses when it comes to like specific things. And what if that's like the advancement of what humans are going to become, is that we become almost like instant masterminds in this like one particular thing, and that's like the main thing that we learn how to communicate and interpret, and that's almost like how we're going to advance as a society, is not just like basically having like jack of all trades and everything, but as technology changes, everybody becomes like a master in like one specific thing, and in turn they're able to hyper focus on this specific thing. Like, I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of benefits to it, as far as even, there's a lot of downfalls to having autism, but there's a lot of benefits to it too if you have high functioning autism. So, maybe it's a matter of like, when a new genetic starts to pop up, it's going to have like a swing where some people are going to hit it harder than others do, but maybe there's like a balance back out where it'll hit this spot where, say, if telepathic communication is part of it, that's definitely one of the next steps for an advancement as the human race. So if that is a side-by-side component that comes with autism, like, again, maybe that is showing that it might be like the next step. Because even not being able to lie, like, if you can't lie because you can basically like interpret what somebody else is thinking and saying, like, could this be an advancement? Like, just a weird perspective on thinking about it,
Well, I did want to circle back around to something you said a little bit ago when you were talking about basically like UFO abductions and whatnot, kind of focusing on people with special needs. I'm not sure about that, but I know in the Mothman Prophecies, Keel specifically mentions how what he calls the phenomena, which was, UFOs, cryptid sightings, the paranormal, all that kind of wrapped into one. But it seems to focus on teachers, and specifically the teachers of special needs children. Which is, just kind of a weird connection that, when I read the book, I, kind of starred that when I was going through it. And I was like, I don't quite know where that fits in, but I feel like that's an interesting little tidbit that I need to kind of put on the back burner. And, here it goes. It pops up, a year and a half later. I don't know how long ago it's been since we did that Mothman series, but I knew that was going to come back up in something, and here it is.
But I mean, they could be the bridging step, though, because if they're the person that gets comfortable with this person that's non-speaking, and they start projecting these ideas of telepathy on them, and they learn how to go back and forth with that idea of telepathy, back and forth with that person with autism, who's to say that they may not learn how to develop that ability and then be able to use it on other people? Or even on the other aspect, if you become more open to these concepts, maybe the phenomenon will show itself to you more. Yeah. So maybe there is an upspike with people who deal with people that have special needs, that they start having an upspike of experiences because they're also, one, interpreting them, and two, opening themselves up to the possibility of these things because of maybe somebody knocking at the door with that, telepathic communication,
Yeah, kind of like I was saying a little bit ago, it could be almost, with these types of people, the veil is just a little bit thinner than with most the population. Yeah, I'm trying to be very delicate with how I word things here, not to offend anybody, but yeah, I think that's entirely possible, that there just is some barrier that either, is not there, or there's, some way that they're able to traverse that barrier.
I mean, just to make another connection in here too, have you ever like been around people that have like Down syndrome or anything, for example, or ever like had a conversation with somebody with that?
A little bit, not too much.
So they kind of have this like childlike sense of wonder. Like they have this like really authentic like sense of humor. Like it's almost kind of reminds you of just like the true honest sense of humor like a child would have, that like a fart joke is funny, like it's just,
well, it is.
I wonder if they kind of have that connection, that they keep their like, for lack of a better term, like childlike innocence, you know what I mean? So, or childlike sense of wonder, or childlike sense of like interest in the world. That might be another good example for it. So because they never have that barrier of the materialistic world pressuring them down, because, a lot of the time, they'll have families that help take care of them. They can kind of just, exist as they want to exist. They don't get pressured into like the normal pressures of the world necessarily. I wonder if that kind of makes that barrier not necessarily go up in the first place. So then they still have that same mental connection with this other world as like, like a 5-year-old might have, but this person can be in their 30s and maybe have a little bit more understanding of the world being in their 30s, but still have that child connection to this other,
Well, kind of taking that a step further, and this is an idea we've talked about on the show a lot. That weird thing that happened, 4 or 5 years ago when we were all at home, and a lot of people were either not working or working from home. And it seems like a lot of people, started podcasts or like fell into paranormal research and stuff like that. It's because you had time to do that. People had time to research and to look into their interests and develop these hobbies. And so, taking it a step further, like you said, if there's, some sort of barrier that's not there to start off with, and like you said, a lot of these individuals live in situations where they're kind of cared for, and they don't have those, everyday quote unquote struggle. That's not the right way to put it.
The pressures of like the normal world of having to fit into the rat race and go to like a 9 to 5 and have to do all this stuff that mentally just breaks you down to a point of exhaustion where you just don't want to do anything but work, eat, and sleep.
More autonomy to kind of, like you said, hyper focus on things. And when you
be curious.
Yeah. And when
just
you put
in
this
general
other
about your
aspect
surroundings
of, they might be more in tune to something, I think that makes a lot of sense. It might just be like a perfect storm. It might not be, hey, this one thing is the magic fucking bullet in this, but when you combine all these different little things, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah, no, because honestly, you wouldn't be able to get to that like that same capacity as like an adult without, like, unless you're able to like take an experiment where you're essentially able to take a person and have them live their whole life without having to fall into the normal world and just be taken care of, just to see what they would do with it. I mean, again, I think it's just a matter too of just being also more observant of things around you, because when everybody's just working their job, they come home, they got their things they got to do. It's like you don't even pay attention to like the little things. Like somebody can move something in your house and you may not even notice for like a week because you're just hyper focusing going through. But if you're somebody that has autism and you hang out in your house and you read your books, you watch your shows, you do your thing, and you notice any little thing that's moved, which is already like part of that anyways, then you start noticing and observing little tiny weird things that seem like they're off. So, I mean, if you start noticing that, you turn around and you look at the person who takes care of you and you just start thinking in your head, like, I really want this right now. And you just are hyper focused on that thought. It kind of goes into that whole idea of like manifesting into somebody else, maybe they're like manifesting without potentially realizing it, because again, if they kind of have this like half connection with like the mental realm and like the physical realm, then they can project these thoughts without even necessarily realizing like fully what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
and they might, like you said, one, they might not realize what they're doing. And two, if these things are happening, they might not realize that that's just not normal. They probably, everybody can just, materialize these things, And
I mean, even connecting into just something else that I was thinking about when I was mentioning like the people with cerebral palsy that he was mentioning on that other podcast, that whole concept about like your your consciousness, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, is still exactly like the person, that you're able to think like you don't have like the mindset of like a child. Like it's almost like you're a grown person that's trapped inside of this like body that you can't talk correctly like you want to, you can't move your body correctly like you want to. If you start looking at like cerebral palsy in that sense, I mean, it's not too far off from the whole concept of like for example, when somebody becomes like gets into like a vegetative state, like more often than not, like we've kind of proven that like even though that person can't move, they can't talk, they can't do anything, like there's still them inside there. Like you can see it from their eye gestures, they can see it from everything else. So it's like, who's to say that if it isn't something that's like a physical ailment, that it may not interact the same? Because again, we have such like a minimal understanding of consciousness. And if this person can't project what they think and feel consciously using like their physical interpretation of the world, then how would you ever know like where they could be thinking inside of their own head? Unless again, you get into this aspect of telepathically communicating with them, but then it gets into the aspect of, it's more of like the pseudoscience where, mainstream science isn't going to take it seriously. But if you start connecting into all these like weird hidden conspiracies and everything else, it makes more than sense, like that would be the way to connect in and actually be able to understand this mental. But again, if it's already like that, and we know that it's like that with somebody who's been put into a vegetative state, why wouldn't we assume that it might not be the same with somebody who's, again, has cerebral palsy,
Yeah, I mean, I like I've said, I think there's definitely something to this. I think it makes a lot of sense just based off of the things we know about science and the world. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot more to add at this point. Like, you've gone hard on this one, so I feel like I don't have a whole lot to add. But yeah, I think this is super interesting. I think this is something that has a lot of connections to a lot of things we talk about. And, I'm kind of interested to see where this research and this work goes. And I think this would be something fun to, circle back to in 6 months, a year, whatever, when this podcast has more information out there, and just kind of do like a check-in and see where they're at with all this.
I mean, I even want to try to hit up these people and see if we can make some of them that have been on this show pop on to bizarre encounters. But I don't know, man. I think it's groundbreaking research. I think there's a lot of potential to it, and I have a lot of respect for this research. Like I said, kind of connecting with all of the stuff that I have gone through with my family through the years and everything. But popping into the chat, we got to bring up some people in the chat because it seemed like a lot of people popped in late. We do have Foot Clan from the last live show, so big shout out to him. And he popped in making some comments about the connection between Down syndrome and UFO conferences and the potential of the mental state of the people that could potentially be running them. But that's debate for another conversation. But popping onto a little bit farther down, he goes, "Bro, you seem hyper focused. Have you had your ADHD check lately?" And no, I have not. So.
Yeah, you went for like a good solid 4 or 5 minutes there, and I don't think you took a fucking breath. I thought you were about to pass out.
Dude, it's one of those things that when I get hyper focused on something, like I'll just end up going off on like rants on it and shit like that. Like I'm sure that if I went in somewhere, they would probably diagnose me with something. I don't know what exactly.
I'm quite sure they diagnose you with something. It's just a matter of what it would be.
It's a spectrum, man. We're all on it somewhere, right?
And we got Mans saying, shout out to Shane Squatch and the Big Bad Boo Daddy for the shout out. And I respond, shout out for the shout out for the shout out. That's like some Inception shit right there.
I'm assuming that's Blood Chugger. So welcome, Blood Chugger. Meet Kelly if Kelly's still in the chat.
Yeah, we're going to have a nickname Fight Club over there. Let's see. Cryptid Bits said, damn, I missed the first half. Why did I think you went live later? Well, that's because your shows go live later, I think, Shane, because I'm an old man and I have to go to bed early. So.
Yeah, usually for any of the lives for Bizarre Encounters and for Bizarre Inquiries, we'll usually be starting them around 7:30, just so everybody kind of has a heads up. And anything for Inquiries will probably start around 9, just because I usually record later because of the kids and everything. But with Orin, of course, like you said, you are the old man, so you need to record a little bit earlier. But also doing a live show, I figured people would probably enjoy it if it started around 7, because that's a good time. That's like right after dinner, or even if you're still eating dinner, you can sit down and listen to us get into some mind-bending shenanigans. But just again, take a quick moment to give a big thank you to everybody that popped into the chat today. And for anybody that may have popped in a bit late, When will our next live show be, Oren?
That will be Thursday, May the 1st at 7:15 Eastern Time on the Open Minds Media YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
And if you guys want to know when we go live, make sure you guys hit that little notification bell up in the top corner, and then you guys will be notified anytime we go live. And even though we will not be live next week with Bizarre Inquiries, we should be live next week for Bizarre Encounters. And offhand, Oren, do you know what we're going to be diving into next week for Bizarre Encounters?
I do. I've switched it up on you. We're not doing Coral Castle next week. I've got something that I just fell penis deep into. So we're going to do Coral Castle as my next deep dive. That one's done, but I got something else on the deck for you guys next week. So,
well, perfect.
Do you want me to give a teaser for everybody out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, let's see. When will this fall? Yeah, they'll hear this for anybody that's listening to it not live. They'll still hear it before the episode comes out. So yeah, definitely give them a teaser, man.
Okay, so I'm not going to come right out and say what it is, but this is something involving a mysterious photograph. It was taken in England in the 1960s. It kind of went viral before going viral was a thing. And there are a lot of interesting kind of thoughts and theories about what this could be. Some of them down to earth and some of them very bizarre. So there's your guys' hint. I'm super excited to present this episode. This is the most fun I've had putting one together and researching it in a long time. So I was able to just, kind of knock this thing out quick, and I want to share it with you guys as quick as I can. So there you go.
Well, I'm excited for it, and from what I can hear in the background, man, it sounds like the audience is going to be pretty excited about it for next week, too. So
bullshit, that's just you pressing little buttons over there.
Well, they don't got to know that, man. But on another side note, say somebody wanted to be able to contribute to the next Bizarre Inquiries episode. How might they be able to do that, Oren?
Well, you guys can submit questions. You can submit articles. You can submit like YouTube videos, any other kind of video, or it can be something, kind of funny. We've been trying to hit not super duper paranormal related funny things like the Viking poop and the Florida Man games. Like, if you guys just want to ask us a random question about ourselves, we'll inquire about that too. So just anything you got, send in those questions, and Shane, tell them how they can do that.
You guys can hit us up through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones we are the most active on. You guys can hit us up through the Inquiries of Our Reality pages or through the Bizarre Encounter pages. You guys can also email us at inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com or at bizarreencounters@outlook.com. Or you guys can even just make it easier for yourself. Go down to the show description. There's a million different means of being able to get a hold of us. Whatever's the easiest means for you guys, just make sure that you guys get a hold of us. Drop some stuff for the next episode. And, I mean, at the end of the day, if you guys like some of the stuff that we end up bringing into the show, and maybe that's why you guys haven't dropped too many articles and stuff, that's totally fine too. Just another concept that we can definitely do at the end. Maybe throwing this idea live on the show right now to get Oren's feedback on it. Maybe at least, we can put our articles together, because I feel like people kind of like what we end up diving into. But maybe at the end of the show, we can start doing something where we do like a guest article or a guest clip or something like that. So at least if we have one, we can throw something out at the end of the show. We can make it a surprise to us. So we have no idea what we're getting into until the guest sends it to us.
Yeah, I think that would be fun to kind of have just our off-the-cuff reactions to things. But, I mean, you guys got to submit those questions if you want us to do that. See if you can stump us. See if you can get us to react weird to stuff. I mean, we react weird to normal stuff. So if you throw something really bizarre, who knows where we'll go with it. Shane will make all sorts of ejaculation jokes, I'm sure.
Or at the end of the show, we can even start doing something where everybody that pops into the live chat, they can start throwing some questions, and we can start getting into those at the end of the show. That might be an even easier option, and it might make it so that more people want to pop into the chat. When we definitely have a good amount of people in the chat. So maybe next time, guys, you guys can pop in, throw some questions towards us at the end, and we can all get into them. And on another side note, if you guys want to keep updated on anything that we got going on, or you guys want to keep updated on any episodes coming out live, main feed, any of that kind of stuff, you guys can follow both of the shows, Inquiries of Our Reality and Bizarre Encounters, on social media, Instagram and Facebook, like I had previously mentioned. And if you guys want to support us and show us some love, you guys can always go and check out our Open Minds Media merch store to get some awesome designs for one of the shows or pertaining to your favorite creature or topic. And t-shirts over there are now only $15.68. I found a way to discount them as much as I possibly can, so hopefully you guys will take advantage of that. And if you guys want to get early access to the show or any of that fun stuff, premium videos of the show, any of that, you guys can go and check out the Open Minds Media Patreon. And of course, you will get stuff for both shows. And Oren, if they like this video, what should they go and do?
I don't give a shit. Like, share, and subscribe. I don't know. What else are they supposed to do?
Hopefully that,
Okay.
yeah. And hit that notification button. I got to keep pressuring that so that, again, everybody will know when we go live and they won't end up popping into the show late because they'll get that, fancy little notification that lets them know the second that we go live. And if anybody wants to find any of this stuff that we'd mentioned, Orin, where can they find that stuff at?
In the motherfucking link tree in the show description.
Oh, hell yeah. And for anybody that may not know it, on this show, we tend to let our minds wander. We get bizarre, like we always tend to do on both shows. So always, always, guys, stay bizarre. Just like me, the big bad Stain Squatch, and Orin over there, the big bad
Boo Daddy.
Daddy, chill.
And I'm coming. Answer the question.
Who is your daddy? And
And I'm coming.
Daddy, chill.
Shane, stop talking about ejaculating.